won't answer it. Somebody that makes sense will instead. Anyway, it's gone. Politicians had nothing to, yeah, they did too, yeah. Boy, did they. Okay, it's my turn today. And I appreciated one thing, well, a lot of things that Mike had to say last week about the church. And in particular, I'm glad to find out that I'm not the only one that anytime I go to my garage, I get greasy. And it just happens that way. And I'm glad that he didn't keep talking about that too long because my ribs were getting sore. Thank you, Mrs. Poe. All right, we're in Jude. We should, well, I don't know. We'll see if we conclude Jude today and begin Revelation. In Jude, we got down to verse 10 in the one chapter. Verse 10, but these men, well, we've got to pick up who are we talking about? Who are these men? You go back to verse 4, for certain persons. And he doesn't name them, but he does point them out in a way that I'm sure that the people that were reading this missive of his were very aware of who they were, and possibly even the people themselves. Certain persons have crept in unnoticed, in verse 4. Those who were long beforehand marked out for this condemnation. And then he goes through a good part of this rest of the book, letter, to mention their condemnation. They were set aside for that. And we'll talk some about them and what their punishments were and so on. But our lesson, if we want to specifically, what about us today? Well, that's a matter of we don't want troublemaking false teachers in the church. We don't need them. They are a real problem, and he says some things about them that you just don't want said about yourself or any of the people that you would be listening to as a teacher. All right, so these certain persons, and he talks about them in this that, well, there in verse 8, it says, these men then, in the same way, these men also by dreaming defile the flesh, reject authority, revile angelic majesties. They don't even have enough sense to not take up an argument with, for instance, Michael, the archangel. He said they're that, and I'll throw in this word for your thought, stupid. They're that stupid that they would even go that far. And I've said sometimes about to try to express some people, and to put it this way, they are so argumentative that when they stand before the judgment seat of God, they'll tell God, I don't interpret it that way. Yeah. Well, look at what they teach and see what it says, God's word says, and there you go. All right. Yet in the same way, verse 8, these men. And then verse 9, but Michael the archangel had better sense than these guys. When he disputed with the devil and argued about the body of Moses, didn't dare pronounce against him, the devil, a railing judgment, but said, I'll let the Lord line you up. I'll let the Lord take care of it. That's right. The Lord rebuke you. I don't have to. Michael had a lot of sense, and you can imagine. But these men, verse 10, but these men don't have this much sense. They revile the things which they do not understand. It's difficult to argue with somebody that has no idea what they're talking about. If you try to logically express what you're trying to tell them, you know, it's like taking a gun to a knife fight. They just are, they have no clue. No clue. And that's what he's saying here. Oh.
Somebody recently posted something about hate on Facebook, and one of their comments, one of their friends commented on it. The Bible teaches hate. And I was like, you've obviously, I replied to this person, you've obviously never read the Bible. You know, it's just an ignorant comment to say, and they've heard it said somewhere before, yeah. But they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. In the news, you get fact checkers these days. Fact checkers. And you don't trust the facts checker. You can't get started with it. It's just like, it's frustrating, to say the least. And how many of you got your sample ballot? Sorry. There you go. But if you watch what they say concerning one another, we're in trouble. We're in bad trouble. But these men revile the things which they do not understand. Right here. They don't understand them. And so what do? They talk them down, not understanding them. And Luke said they probably haven't read the Bible. Well, the phrase you're going to get when you talk to these people, well, it says somewhere that. Talking about the Bible. Well, somewhere that. Well, turn the Bible around, point it to them, say, find that book. I've never, in my concordance, ever found a book that was somewhere. I found concordance. That's as close as I can get. But no. But they don't understand the things that they're arguing about. And the things which they know by instinct, like unreasoning animals, by these they're destroyed. Yeah. Things that you're born with, you know better than. These destroy these. Remember, these certain persons from verse 4 and verse 8. These men. These people. They are so much a problem. Well, now you take this in context, and when he says, but these men revile the things that they do not understand, he's talking about, and he just used one of the examples, about good and bad spirits. He just talked about Michael the archangel and the devil. And these guys, they're way out of line with it. They don't understand, but still they'll revile good and evil spirits. And Jude, it's almost like he's frustrated, so he uses a lot of examples so people will understand these are the kind of guys you must not have in the church. Jackson.
Makes you wonder why people like this even want to hang around us. You know, I mean, they're making themselves, they're making conscious efforts to derail the church, though wanting to be a part of the church, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I read different things all the time about the way people in the church and religion as a whole view things. You know, you get to the point that, what's the point? Why are you even here?
Well,
making no progress.
Yeah, we'll get to that, and there's a reason, and it's in verse 12. We're not there yet, but we'll get there just pretty quick. And Jason is reading that right now. Okay, these men revile things they do not understand, things which they know by instinct, like unreasoning animals. By these they are destroyed. Woe to them. In verse 11, woe to them, for they have gone the way of, and he mentions 3 people. Woe to them. What is a woe? If you're riding a horse, you know, but this is not that kind. What is it to you? A woe. If someone, what's that? Caution? Mm-hmm. That's a good response. Anybody?
A warning.
A warning. A warning. A caution. Yeah. All right. It's a curse. It's a curse. Jesus used them. But this is the only other one in the New Testament other than what Jesus used. That's why I pointed out. It's curse. Whoa. Of course, it depends on where it comes from. Some have no authority to give one. Jesus did. And anybody that would fall under his would be well to listen. And now, as by inspiration, Jude says, woe, curse them. They are cursed. Jude didn't have to do it himself. God did it, and he points out how through most of the rest of this book. Woe to them, for they have gone the way of Cain. Well, what Cain? Cain is a perfect example of doing something big that had no reason for it, no logic at all behind it. He murdered his brother because his brother was doing right. Does that make any kind of sense? It doesn't. It doesn't. And that's the example that Jude is using here. These men, they don't understand. They don't realize that they have no logical reason at all to do and teach and be where they are. So they've gone the way of Cain. No reason. And for pay, they rushed headlong into the error of Balaam for filthy profit's sake. They have greedily run on trying to just pad their own bank account. It's in the modern time, it would be like people would hack into others' finances and take them. They're clear in another continent, and they can do that. And they'll never see the person that they're harming. They'll never come in contact with them. They are so devoid of an innate sense of right and wrong. They just They don't have it. Now, Jude has said here things that they should know by instinct. They don't. They don't. And that's somewhat like Balaam. He said when the Balak's emissary came to him and said, "We want you to come and curse the Israelites," he said, "Well, I can't do that. God won't let me." He was saying, "Well, it's just not right. I can't do it." But when money was put on a table in front of him, he said, "Well, but let's not be hasty. Let me figure this out a little bit, and I'll talk with God about this and see if we can't get around this little problem." See, like unreasoning beasts. And so he uses Balaam as an example. They rushed headlong into the error of Balaam and perished in the rebellion of Korah. They opposed themselves to authority. They were over the authority that they should have been under. Korah did that in the Old Testament. Moses and Aaron had been doing their very, very best with God's help to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt and try to take care of this huge multitude of people and all of their animals. They'd worked at this, and Korah and his followers, 250 of them, something like this, and his followers, said, "These guys are just lording it over us. This is their, they're king. They're playing kingship stuff here, and we're their serfs. Nah, we don't like that. So we are going to stop this." And so Korah, and his followers went to take care of this matter. They went before Moses, and they told Moses and Aaron how they had it figured, and they were going to take over. And Moses said, "Well, we'll see about that." And he said, "The way we'll see about that is we're going to talk to God." That should have been Korah's number one, like, "Oh, well, I think we're in trouble. We need to back off." But he wouldn't. So Moses said, we're going to talk to God. They talked to God. God said, "All right, here's what you tell them." And so what he told them was what God said to say. He said, "Well, now, we're going to pray about this right out here in front of the whole bunch of people, everybody. And if the ground opens up and swallows you guys and then shuts right over you, then you're wrong and we're right. If that doesn't happen, okay, we'll back down and quit." Guess what happened? But these, like unreasoning animals, beasts, by these things they are destroyed. Destroyed. And Jude has laid it out here. He said, "Well, they perished in the rebellion of Korah." These people, of course, once again, it's what they do and how they revile and so forth. They do it without any understanding at all. No understanding. Had they taken the scripture and the old law and looked and read, they would have seen this about Korah and how, you really shouldn't be crossing God or his helpers or his people. You shouldn't be doing this. And it's this serious. Perish in the rebellion of Korah. All right, verse 12. These are the men. Why do they do this? Why do they get around the church? Why do they want to be in and a part of the church? Well, we go back just the example that he gave here of Korah. Well, they like the glory. They like the standing up in front and being, I'm saying it, so it's true type stuff. And of course, the other two examples are very legitimate also. This of profit, money, and that of it. Sometimes it just absolutely, and I think Jason tried to express this, it absolutely doesn't make any sense why they do this. But they don't make any sense because they don't have any. That makes sense? Please say yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, these are the men who are now. We come to a word that sometimes words don't cross over well from one language to another. And so mine says hidden reefs. Well, and then it talks about a love feast. What's a hidden reef got to do with a love feast? We don't use boats in our lunches and dinners and so forth around here. Potlucks. A hidden reef. A hidden reef is something that, well, you don't just spring a leak in the bottom of your boat. A hidden reef will tear the bottom out. And that way you don't have to bail. Because it wouldn't help. All right. But there are the word that it's sometimes used, and I like it better, even though it's not in the New American Standard, is spots. Spots. Now, some of us were at a wedding last night, and one thing that a bride would not want on her wedding dress is what? A spot. Even a little one. Even a little one. I had a friend when I was in high school, just freshman, sophomore, something like that. He was also, and I always thought, well, he's sure kind of finicky about some stuff. Well, at one period of time, a popular thing that some boys wore, I didn't, were white cords. Buddy, no, you're not that old. Anybody? White cords. He would have them. Oh boy, they were just so clean, no spots. And to put them on, he got up on his bed, no shoes, and put those things on, so that there wouldn't be any spots on them. And then I'd take him where we were going on my motorcycle. Okay. Spots. All right. And my wife has a problem with spots on, her husband sometimes. Can't help it. A spot in the example here, a spot is something that you just really don't want. Now, a hidden reef for a boater, a hidden reef, you don't really want one, or you really don't want one because of what they do. They'll ruin things. That's his point. They'll ruin things. Okay, these are the men who will ruin things. They're hidden reefs. They're spots. In your love feasts, when they feast with you. Now, this is why they do. They want to be in it. They want to sneak themselves in and become, they come in, you know, really kind of hidden. That's what they said. They've crept in unnoticed or unawares in verse 4. But they want, because now they can be in the feast with the church and without fear. They're caring for themselves with the food that belongs to the sheep. They're being shepherds. They're taking it. They're enjoying it without care about the sheep. They are clouds without water. I know in some places that's a real blessing. Not in Nevada. They're carried along by winds. These clouds without water, carried along by winds. And wind isn't as valuable as the rain. Here, just really, we can look at this example. Yes. And he said, they're not only that, they're autumn trees without fruit. It's harvest time and they don't have anything. Doubly dead, uprooted. That's the kind of trees they are. Doubly dead. Harvest time comes, nothing. Pull them out.
So these guys are basically Christianity's versions of the Pharisees and Sadducees.
That's one group that fits like a glove. Yeah.
What was the question? Sorry. I said that these guys would be the Christianity's versions of the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Yeah, in the New Testament times, sure. Okay, and then he doesn't stop there. He keeps going. They're like wild waves of the sea, casting up their own shame like foam. Wild waves of the sea. A sea can be, the Pacific is called that because it's smooth, it's pacified, Pacific. And generally, it's that way. And to look at it, yeah, it looks really nice. But occasionally, the thing will get you. And I've told you about the guy that a rogue wave got him. And sure rolled him around for a while. And he learned about that sort of thing. Yeah, so if you're from Nebraska, be aware. Yeah, I tell people that, you know, well, Nevada has lots of beach. We just don't have an ocean. And so we don't have to worry about this wave stuff. But they are just wild waves of the sea, casting up their own shame, just like the wild wave would its foam. And there's lots and lots and lots of that. If you've ever been around where there's a surf that's up and kind of looking that way. Yes, Luke?
Well, every year, according to the sources, there's huge ships that go missing. They just disappear out there because they think it's big waves that just take them down.
Yeah, just where did that come from? Yeah. Bermuda Triangle, if you've ever heard of that. Wandering stars for whom the black darkness has been reserved forever. Just like a wandering star. We look up in the sky and we see familiar things, familiar stars, because they're right there. They're there all the time. The Big Dipper, most everybody knows you can find the Big Dipper. It's out this time of year. And yeah, and you can use some of it, or a couple of the stars to line up on the North Star. We know these things. That's not the, they're steady. They're sure. They're going to be there, and you can navigate with them, whatever, because they're right, and they're always there. These aren't. They're like a comet that will come through and just sail on through and keep going, and they're wandering stars for whom is reserved outer space. They have no good purpose, and they're not, you can't count on them. You can't navigate with them. You can't look up and enjoy their beauty or their place in the scheme of things. They're just wandering stars for whom the black darkness has been reserved forever. And the word forever, we'll get into that word some in Revelation. It seldom ever comes by itself. It's always got something else with it. Kind of like you write a word and then underline it. Forever and ever. Comes with and ever. So we sometimes use exaggerations, don't we? And wouldn't forever take care of it? You don't have to add and ever, but we'll use one exaggeration that you hear all the time. It's enough to make it. No, it kills me. Really? How can you say it then? Yeah, it's enough to, you know, and then we'll say, well, it just, how long does it take to get from here to there? Forever. Well, it took me forever to get there. Okay. All right, well, let's go on. That's how he's trying to express these people. And then he says, now, lest you forget who we're talking about. Verse 14, it was also about these men, so we're still talking about these guys, that Enoch, in the 7th generation from Adam, prophesied, saying, behold, the Lord came with many thousands of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all, and to convict all the ungodly of all their ungodly deeds which they have done in an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. The chief word there being what? Ungodly. And he uses, I think, as a noun, an adjective, an adverb. Not a verb, I don't think. Anyway, he uses ungodly, every way you can think of to express these people. They're ungodly, which is without God, ungodly. But it was about these men that Enoch, 7th generation from Adam, prophesied. And now, the literal prophecy, I came across the literal prophecy. I'm going to read just the literal one. And it's not in the Bible. You won't find it. You find this said in the Bible, but Enoch didn't say it. And so where do I get it? Well, it's in the Apocrypha. Yeah, okay, you know where that one is? Do you have that in your Bible? Don't you? Oh, you're going kind of light, huh? Okay. And he cometh with 10,000s of his holy ones, that he may execute judgment upon them and destroy the ungodly, and may plead with all the carnal ones for all the things which sinners and the ungodly have done or wrought against him. Now, that book is an apocryphal book. It was written not by, well, it doesn't claim to be written by Enoch, although it carries his name. It was written within 100 years of the life of Christ, give or take. So it's not inspired, but apparently Jude knew about it, and he had read it, and so he just put that down to help explain in his frustrations these people who had snuck into the church And he didn't want anybody thinking that, hey, this is okay. Even if they say that what they're going by is from God or inspired or whatever. Yeah, he quotes a book that's apocryphal to use their own ammunition against them. And say, yeah, that's the kind of guys you are. You're using a book, and let me quote from your book to show people how you are and how you're talked about. And so, but it says, now it's in the Bible, in Jude, it's good. It's so, behold, the Lord came with many thousands of his holy ones to protect the church. And to protect the church against ungodly ones, and especially if they're trying to tell the church some things that aren't true. To execute judgment, you see, upon all, and to convict all the ungodly one of their ungodly deeds. Convict them, see. The ungodly deeds which they have done. And how did they do these ungodly deeds? They did them in an ungodly way. How much worse can this get? And of all the harsh things which ungodly sinners, now to be a sinner is bad enough, but if it has to be said you're an ungodly sinner, well, to convict them of all the harsh things which ungodly sinners have spoken against who? God. See, he said in this book, he said that they have no parameters given to themselves. They have no limits to their speaking against the things of God. Even against God. So, and of all the harsh things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him, against God. I'm out of time. All right, I'll stop. Thank you for your attention, and we'll finish this next time and maybe even get a little introduction toward the next book.